Hello, my loves. Welcome back to Soul Light Reflections. It has been such a long time since I recorded an episode because I have to be honest, I've been in this freeze state when it comes to this podcast. For a long time, like months, I was waiting for my friend to send me this episode that we had recorded together. It was a recap of the Costa Rica retreat that I attended of hers. And I haven't received that yet. And then I was waiting on a day that worked for both me and Max to record our Shambhala engagement story. I know. We've been saying for literally so long that we were going to record it, and we will, I promise, but we just haven't yet. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe we'll record an episode about this magical festival wedding that we just had, or maybe we'll record an episode together about this experience of getting to a pregnancy journey. And well, obviously, none of that has happened, and I've just been kind of waiting, and I realized, what am I waiting on? I'm literally waiting on other people and other people's schedules, and that's just not fair to me because I love putting out these episodes, and it's also not fair to you as a listener when you might be sitting there waiting for new episodes. I know that feeling when my favorite podcasts don't put out episodes for months at a time, or sometimes they take a really long hiatus. And I feel like I'm sitting there missing my favorite show, just wondering what's happening in their life. So I'm back. Today, I decided to just rip the metaphorical Band-Aid off and just record something because it's been way too long. And honestly, I'm really grateful that there are still so many of you that are listening and sharing with me how this podcast has helped you. And it really does light a fire under my ass to just keep going. But I feel like the reason that I've been in this interesting freeze state is because it's kind of like when you haven't reached out to a friend for a really long time and you know they're going through something and you do care, but you just don't really know what to say, and so you never reach out. And then it gets more and more awkward and daunting to actually reach out to them. And then when you finally do reach out, you're like, oh my God, that wasn't even bad. They weren't even mad. They were just happy to hear from me. I'm so happy I did that. Why did I wait so long? And so I was pondering on that metaphor today and realizing let me just show up. Let me just show up for this podcast. So here I am. I'm finally reaching out to you. So I guess all of that to say, I didn't really have a topic in mind. I just was just get on, girl. You gotta record something. And then I realized right now that we should probably talk about freeze states and this state that stops us from doing so many different things in life. And I want to make it clear that it happens to every single one of us at some point, no matter how driven we are, no matter how motivated we are, because a freeze state is not just about mindset. It's literally physiology in our body. Our nervous system has different states or modes that it kind of shifts between in order to keep us safe and healthy. So there's fight, there's flight, and there's freeze. And I'm sure you've heard of that before, but I think it's important to fully understand what that means and how it shows up in our daily life. When we hit that freeze state, it usually means that our body has sensed some sort of overwhelm or some sort of threat. That being said, it might not always be actual danger, like being chased by a bear, for instance, but it might mean too much input. It might mean too much pressure. It might mean too many expectations. The freeze response is actually controlled by a part of your vagus nerve, which is a nerve in your central spinal cord, in your central nervous system. It is actually the longest nerve in your body, so it connects your brain to your heart, to your lungs, to your gut. And so it's basically this communication highway between your brain and your emotions. And a lot of times, especially in modern day and in this day and age, our vagus nerve senses stress for way too long, and then it can pull us into this total shutdown mode. And when that shutdown mode happens, we start to feel stuck. We start to feel foggy, kind of detached, tired, or even exhausted, burnt out. Your body is literally just trying to protect you by actually slowing things down because it's thinking that we need to conserve our energy because it doesn't want to get even more overwhelmed. So it thinks it's protecting us. And in a certain sense it is. The thing that can sometimes get in our way is that sometimes that freeze state shows up around the tiniest, most mundane tasks, like the ones that literally shouldn't feel like a big deal at all. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you can come up with examples, but here are some that might feel like a really big deal in your mind that your brain just like overinterprets, overanalyzes, like, and gets overwhelmed by. So something like sending that email that like for some reason feels really overwhelming, that will take you 2 seconds, but you just need to send it. Or replying to a text from last week from a coworker, but you're overwhelmed and thinking about like how much they might hate you because you haven't responded yet. Or paying a super simple bill that like literally your card information's already saved and you just have to click a couple buttons. Or opening your bank app to like make sure that you have money for whatever purchase. Or doing your dishes, or which sometimes might be a truly daunting task if we've put it off for too long, but or even like writing the first sentence of a project or a post or an email. Even when you know exactly what you want to say, it like sometimes can feel so overwhelming and like this, but I don't even know where to start, like what to do. And so your nervous system senses these things as threats. It thinks that they are bigger than they are because of this fear that shows up, expectations that you have, pressure that you put on yourself. You're kind of making it bigger. And so then your body's like, oh, well, apparently this is a really big deal. And so we need to protect ourselves. So that's when the freeze state kicks in. And then we end up doing nothing. So once I realized that I was meeting this freeze state a lot more, especially lately. And so something that we can do when we are in that freeze state is we can bring in some compassion to the situation. Because at the end of the day, your body, your brain are just trying to keep you safe, and they think that there's some sort of danger, even if there isn't. But you've built it up so much that it literally feels like that to your system. And so what we can do is bring some compassion to the situation. So instead of like making it worse by telling yourself you're lazy, you're unmotivated, why can't I just do this? What's wrong with me? Everyone else does it. Like it isn't a big deal. And like trying to shame yourself into it. Like think about it. When is the last time that you tried to shame someone into doing something or like guilt trip someone into doing something for you and it like actually worked and it like was good on the other side? Like maybe you got them to do the thing, but it probably didn't turn out, like they probably weren't happy about it, right? And so same thing goes when you're talking to yourself about these things. So instead, meeting with compassion means asking yourself a question like, what would help me feel safe enough to take action again? What would help me feel safe enough to move again? Sometimes that's literally just like a deep breath and then just doing the thing, which I'll talk about in a second. Sometimes it is snapping yourself out of the environment that you're in, like taking a short walk outside. Sometimes it's literally just like sitting in silence and like sensory deprivation for a second, if you're able to find that in your day. These are things that remind your vagus nerve, that highway from your brain to many other integral parts of your body, to signal like, hey, we're safe now. We found that moment of calm. We can move on now. And truly that can help you shift from frustration with yourself to like a curiosity to, I wonder what it might feel like to do this one thing. And then you don't have to force yourself out of the freeze, because if you're forcing yourself out of it, you're just going to create even more hurt down the line. It's going to be even more challenging to rewire your nervous system for that safety down the line. Quick little interruption to talk about two really important things that I am not good at talking about on this podcast. Number one, I have a retreat coming up in Joshua Tree, November 27th to December 1st. So if you are a person who is in some sort of transitional period in life, whether that's moving, career changes, relationship changes, friendships, your roles and responsibilities in life changing, whatever it may be that you are feeling like you need a renewal, a new outlook, a new perspective, this is the retreat for you. So I like to blend all kinds of healing modalities as well as a lot of playfulness and fun. So if this is interesting to you, I have 2 spots left out of 14. So I would love to have you join us. Again, it's November 27th to December 1st. If this interests you, you need to reach out ASAP, like as soon as you're hearing this, because those spots will fill. And then the second thing is the company that my husband and I own called Lucid Hydration. It is an all-natural functional mushroom electrolyte product. It just comes in a little stick pack that you mix with your water, so super easy to take on the go. We have 2 flavors, Raspberry Bliss and Tangerine Dream, and both incorporate the amazing benefits of 6 different organic functional mushrooms, organic ashwagandha, rhodiola rosea, vitamin B12, L-theanine, vitamin C, and many other nutrients for your body. It is not just about hydration, it's about clean energy without caffeine, without sugar, and without any artificial ingredients. So check it out, www.lucidhydration.com, and then use code Rachel for a little discount because I love you and I appreciate you supporting our business. All right, back to it. So really all your nervous system is asking is to be met with care and with safety and with patience. And then after you do that, a lot of times that action is going to naturally just kind of happen and follow, which is really freaking cool, honestly. Now, all of that being said, sometimes those pauses that we're met with are actually super, super important. And it doesn't always mean that you are in a true freeze state. Sometimes those pauses are actually really sacred and kind of written in the stars, if you will, of like certain circumstances or certain seasons of life where we're actually just supposed to be, and we're not supposed to be taking as much action as we might think. And in fact, the action that we feel like we're supposed to be taking during that time is just because of other people's expectations or societal norms or things like that. And when we take a step back, we realize, no, like actually this pause is feeling really good and really helpful and nurturing. And so I'm going to stay here for a little bit longer. So that's where I've actually been at for the majority of the past few months. Spoiler alert, if you didn't know, I am now almost 4 months pregnant. And for me, the first trimester was such a fucking struggle, honestly. I didn't do much. It was way more of a struggle than I thought it would be. I couldn't do anything more than just like be. Like literally just trying to survive every day. And it's funny because just be was like this message that I had been getting for almost a year. My guides kept telling me like, just be. Like I'd get reminders in so many different ways during meditation, in my dreams, messages from other people. Even it was like written on a rock one time that I received, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then literally up until about a month ago during my first trimester, someone had said something about just being, and I'm like, okay, I get it. And the thing is, at first I thought that I was just being, like I thought I was doing really good at that, especially after I went to the retreat in Costa Rica. I might have spoken on this on another episode, but I'm not 100% sure. I had been getting that message over and over in Costa Rica as well. And so the reason that I ended up staying in Costa Rica longer after the retreat was because I realized that if I were to come straight back to Washington right after the retreat, I would be jumping right back into doing, just because it's what I do. It's my normal, environment. It would be really, really, really hard not to. And so during that 2.5 extra weeks in Costa Rica, I was able to literally just be. And I honestly put most work to the side on purpose, to the point where I actually put a notice at the contracted occupational therapy position that I was in. And I was just like, I'm literally just going to be. I'm going to focus on this. And I am so grateful that I got that practice back then, because now during this pregnancy, there have been so many times that I have been, I don't want to say forced, but very firmly reminded that I needed to just be. And it made me a lot more comfortable in that space of just being. And I didn't feel a lot of guilt for not propelling my business forward, because I'm like, I'm growing a fucking human right now, and I need to keep myself healthy. And if I allow myself to go back into this fight, flight, or freeze state, that's going to be counterintuitive. It's going to be counterproductive. What I'm basically saying is that sometimes we have to pause. And it's really, really necessary in order for us to be able to have a moment to like process, to analyze, to identify like where things might need to shift or like what we might need to let go of. Just because you're in a pause doesn't mean you're in a freeze. And you'll know because they feel very different. We'll talk about that in a second. Sometimes though, those pauses that are necessary get dragged out too long. And then that's when it starts to shift into a freeze state. So it is possible to have that necessary pause, but then to kind of become like complacent in it and then not recognize when it's like go time. And that almost happened to me, which is why I decided, you know what, girl, just record the episode. That's why I'm here. Because I'm practicing what I preach, which is one of the hardest things about being a teacher, to be honest, sometimes. Like, you know these things so well, and then you're telling people, and then you don't realize, like, oh, wait, I'm not actually doing that right now. So that's why I'm here. So when we let that pause drag out too long, a lot of times what happens is that loss of momentum that happened, it lingers, and then it's even harder to get the momentum moving again. So think of like if you were running a marathon. I feel like this might be a good metaphor. If you're running a marathon and you just need like a quick break to pee, to grab a snack from one of the like, you know, the little stands that they have along marathons, and like maybe an energy drink or something. I've obviously never ran a marathon, so I don't know exactly what they have, but I'm just assuming. Maybe you just need like a 5-minute break to do those things. Versus if there was like a pub right there and you like stopped for half an hour to like go have a drink with your friend because you saw them on the sidelines and you're like, yo, I'm making really good time. Screw it. Let's go have a drink. It would be really freaking hard to get back into the race after that, right? Versus the necessary pause for hydration and nourishment and then getting back into it. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So if you are noticing that some part of you feels really stuck right now, I want you to take a moment to check in with yourself. And you don't even need to have the answers to these questions I'm going to ask you immediately. Like, just notice how they feel to you. And you can always come back to this. That's why it's recorded. Or you could like write them down for yourself. So I want you to ask yourself, where in my life am I forcing movement when my body is actually asking for a pause? Where in my life am I actually forcing movement when my body is asking for a pause? Example might be like starting a project or making that phone call or scheduling that appointment or cleaning up your desk, like things that shouldn't feel like a really big deal, but somehow are feeling so overwhelming. Maybe you have an example for yourself. Next question is, what's one thing that I have been overthinking instead of just starting? And I'm talking like smaller tasks for this one, like the tiny tasks, like writing that email, responding to a message or a text, doing that post online, like not something that feels bigger, like, I don't know, doing your dishes or cleaning up your desk. And then the next question is, what would a small, maybe imperfect, first step look like right now? It's okay for it to look imperfect. And actually, I feel like it's kind of valued for it to be imperfect because it puts a lot less pressure on yourself. So it might be literally just like opening the document that you need to write and then like writing a couple lines, or setting a timer for 5 minutes to work on the thing you need to do. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to start. You can always come back and like edit things later, right? You just have to start. Basically what you're doing is ripping the Band-Aid, kind of like I did at the beginning of this episode, where I was like, I'm just going to start recording. I don't really have a topic. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And here we are. So just pause for a few seconds after you ask yourself these questions. And an important part here is noticing how your body responds to these things. So notice when there's like tension or resistance in your body, because usually our bodies respond before our mind does. It's just the way we're hardwired. And so tuning into your body can really like light up some things and make you realize some things. And another point is that when you're reflecting on these, it's not about judging yourself or shaming yourself or guilting yourself. It's really just about awareness. Like we need to be aware of something in order to make a change. I always say to my one-on-one clients, you don't know until you know, and then you can't unknow. And so this is the same thing. That awareness is the first step towards actually breaking free from that freeze state and from that prolonged, unnecessary pause, and to create actual sustainable momentum. Now, sometimes to start that momentum, all it takes is literally starting somewhere. My grandma used to always say this to me: if you don't know where to start, start somewhere. And it sounds so simple and like honestly maybe a little silly, but it's true. One thing that has helped me step out of that freeze state a little bit faster in my past is having like a super simple, repeatable process, something that I am able to come back to when I feel stuck. Because when we're feeling overwhelmed, when things are really daunting, when we have like a whole long to-do list that literally is never ending and things are just adding on, we don't need a perfect plan. We just need like steps. That's like my occupational therapist brain kicking in, being like, break things down into gradable steps. Like literally it is true. So here's how to do it. Step 1 is just be honest with yourself about what's actually stopping you. Again, you don't know until you know, and then you can't unknow. So it might be fear of judgment. It might be perfectionism. It might be literally just being exhausted. It might be like ADHD, like feeling scattered, feeling all over the place. But when you name it, it takes away some of that power. It allows you to take back some of that power in like actually getting closer to taking action. Step 2 is picking one super simple action that you can take today. And so kind of like in those questions that I asked you, it could literally be like sending that one email, replying to one message. Maybe you have like 5 to 10, maybe even 100 text messages you haven't replied to. Literally choose one. And if one of your goals is, I need to clear out this inbox, well, maybe replying to one message is all you need to really start. And the important part in this step 2 is it has to be really small. Like it has to be one of those like, oh yeah, of course I could do that. I just haven't. I talk about this all the time with clients as far as like setting goals for yourself. It needs to be like a, fuck yeah, I can do that. Like a duh type of goal. And so that's what this needs to be. The smaller it is, the more likely you are to actually do it. Step 3 is to do it before your brain has time to talk you out of it. Because it will. One of my favorite rules ever that I have literally employed for probably close to 10 years now is basically you act like you're a rocket ship. You count yourself down 3, 2, 1, and then you just go before you can think about it. So count down and just move, jump into it. Because when you actually take action, that actually interrupts your nervous system. And so it signals like, no, we're safe. Like we can move, we can go. Like we're good. And then step 4, my favorite part, celebrate. Celebrate that you did something. It doesn't matter how tiny it was. You need to celebrate yourself or else you're not going to want to do it again. Say it out loud if you want. Like I did it, even if it's tiny. Do a little dance party, like reward yourself with something. This isn't about ego. This is about teaching your body and your brain that when you take small steps, it's safe. And that starting again feels really good, even if it's not perfect, because it's not supposed to be perfect. We're literally not perfect. No one in this world needs you to be perfect. It just needs to see what you have to offer to this world. And sometimes that's in a simple text message to a friend telling them how great they are and that you miss them. I don't know. So momentum doesn't come from this massive effort. If you haven't gotten that from this by now, maybe listen to the episode. I don't know. It's not from big effort. It's from finding safety and being honest with yourself and finding and creating small, consistent steps and actually taking action behind those steps and keeping yourself accountable with that. And then when we approach it this way, we start to like rebuild that trust with ourselves. And that is what creates the long-term change. So again, we don't need to like overanalyze what exactly the starting point is. Take it from my grandma. If you don't know where to start, start somewhere, anywhere, choose anything, because it's just important that we start. And on this one today, I'm leading by example. Like I said, I'm just starting. I don't even know when the last time I recorded an episode was, like probably June maybe, and it's October now. Like what? I could have just been like, I don't know. I'm just going to like not ever record an episode again, I guess, because like it's been too long at this point. But I'm like, no, I got things to say. Just because I don't know how to say them quite yet and don't know exactly what's going to be said, I know that I have a lot of wisdom to share on this long format. How do I say that? On this long format? You get what I'm saying. It's longer than like Instagram, TikTok, etc. Anyway, I'm really proud of myself because it's starting to come together, right? I made that first step. And this is actually a pretty big first step, to be honest. And so that's where I am today. I released the perfectionism. I let go of the need to like have it figured out. I just started. And now we have a beautiful episode for you to listen to that hopefully gives you a lot of good insight that will help you in your own life. And I need you to trust that when you show up, it doesn't matter how it looks. When you show up, it is enough. It is enough. If you've been in your own freeze state, whether with your creativity, your relationships, your healing, your business, I want this to be your gentle reminder that you don't have to have a perfect plan. You just need to start somewhere. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being along on this journey with me through every pause, even if it's really long, months long, sorry, and every new beginning, which I will definitely expand on in future episodes now that I've ripped this Band-Aid off. I'm really excited to like share more about what the heck has been going on in my world. It's actually quite crazy and beautiful and amazing. And I hope that you have had an amazing season and journey in life at this time as well. I love you all so much, and I'm so happy to be back. This felt so good. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Until next time, keep shining, keep aligning, and we'll talk soon.